नहीं रुकेंगे नहीं रुकेंगे, सबको स्वस्थ करेंगे, पूरा स्वस्थ करेंगे, नहीं थमेंगे नहीं थमेंगे, अब ठान लिया है मंजिल पाके रहेंगे।
Welcome back. You're watching the NDTV Detol Banega Swasth India. How do we bridge the gap with 50,000 to 75,000 beds for a population of 1 billion with critical care specialist shortage across the country, where more than 80% of our top critical doctors live in big metro cities? Well, technology adoption is the key. This hour, we are going to be talking about how technology can bring about a change in healthcare. Joining us for this hour, we have Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, Managing Director, Apollo Hospitals, Neeraj Jain, Country Director, India Path, Dilen Gandhi, Regional Marketing Director, South Asia, Health and Nutrition Record, Mohammad Asif, CEO, Plan India, Nikhil Joshi, co-founder, Digital Jalebi, Prashant Warrior, co-founder and CEO, Cure.ai, and Shaito Raha, founder and CEO, My Healthcare. Thank you all so much for joining us. Neeraj, I would like to start with you here. How can technology bridge the gap between the health equity, in different across India, and from the use of drones, we've been seeing how they are being used in rural India to actually detecting cancer in a village.
Thank you, Ambika. It's really nice to see you in person, Mr. Bachchan. Zoom is not the same, I must say. Thank you. I think, Ambika, you started off with the challenge of a large country with a lot of people, geographically dispersed. And the equity issue becomes larger because of the urban-rural divide. So there is actually, if you look at the shortage of manpower that we have, the only way to actually leapfrog that is possibly by using technology to get there. There are three large issues. One is about awareness of health, and thanks to COVID, I think we've all become very aware of our health right up to our villages. The second is access. And access, with the help of telehealth, with the help of really technology, we need to provide access to our rural population. The third big piece is going to be about ensuring that they get the right kind of quality of services right at their doorstep. And to do all of that, there is no way that our manpower, human resources are going to get there very soon. So the only way for us to do that is through technology. And I just want to use one simple example. eSanjeevani, which is a telehealth platform, which is supported by the Government of India, is currently, they've got 1 lakh health and wellness centers which are using it. There are 12,000 hubs, and they've run about 65 million telehealth consultations in our rural areas. So those are the kind of examples that we need to have to really reach out and create access for our.
So telehealth, just going back to the drones, because that's something new we've seen, in a place like Arunachal Pradesh, how they're really using drones so that healthcare can reach last mile connectivity.
Yeah, so that's of course, drones is it's also something which is very interesting. We are seeing that across the world, but in Arunachal, which is a hard to reach kind of a geography, it's been very, very useful for reaching the last mile, which, you have to walk for 3 days to get somewhere. But a drone is able to do that. So we've been running a pilot program. This is supported by USAID and also under the Samridh program. And really looking at how we can deliver medicines, vaccines, blood as required. And that could possibly be the future in order to reach our populations, which are hard to reach across the country.
Dilen Gandhi, I wanted to ask you this question. See, Reckitt is running a number of programs. What has been your, adaptation of technology and its use in these programs?
Right. So, obviously, technology plays a very central role.
Beg your pardon, particularly when it comes to making or communicating what you want to do.
Right. No, so obviously, I'm glad we want to focus on that, because technology otherwise becomes a very broad topic. Yeah. Specifically when it comes to communicating, technology has allowed us to do two things. One is get message out on scale very quickly, and we saw an example of that during the COVID pandemic when it was important to get the message out of good hand hygiene, to a large number of people. We leveraged the TikTok platform at that point of time, and we got 100 billion views within 7 days. Now, that was a way in which we could get a message out to a large number of people at the same time. The other thing that technology helps us do is to customize messages to people basis what their needs are at that point of time. So we ran a program where we were able to target mothers who were expecting, mothers who had children between 0 to 3 months, mothers who had children from 3 to 6 months, and so on, by providing them customized information that was going to be useful for them at that life stage, as well as information about products that could be useful for them in that journey. So to me, technology allows us to bridge both those kind of use cases. And with the evolution, the use cases will only continue to expand.
Shaito, thank you. Sorry,
I'm just wanting to know how drones are being used in the kind of campaign that we've been trying to design here.
Sir, there are a lot of places in India which you have to cross rivers, mountains, etc. to get there. So especially our immunization program cannot be complete unless we reach the last mile. And to reach those places, if you go, there aren't roads, etc. So to get there itself takes a few days in most places. So drones are being used to actually deliver vaccines to those locations. They've got, of course, the ASHA workers, the A&M workers in those locations. They're receiving them and they're actually using them. Blood transportation is another big one, especially in emergency care. So that again, so at the moment, still in trial phases, but this could be a game changer for India, sir, especially in hard to reach areas.
Is there any concept of making large enough drones to be able to carry larger packets?
At the moment, they're still small packages. The vaccine packages, it's like a small little container. Blood, again, in emergency, a small container is able to do it. Large drones, there are also issues of, the whole security and safety issues. So, so that's why currently the trials that are happening are mostly on the small drones. But eventually, I'm hoping that, we'll be able to create that security infrastructure to be able to move larger equipment, etc., going forward.
If there is a primary medical facility,
Right, sir.
in say a rural area, where some very basic equipment and medical help is there, and if someone wants to have, say, a blood test to be able to detect the disease, how long does it take?
So the problem is blood samples have to reach a lab. And that's another
So
part.
that's why I was asking.
Right, sir.
Can there be made provision where the person is able to extract the blood, but be able to send it via drone
Absolutely.
to a laboratory, get it tested, and send the result back?
Absolutely, sir. And the government is setting up a lot of labs in every block. So actually the transportation is not just one way, it's both ways.
Yeah.
So you could get samples, even for tuberculosis, getting samples to the lab to be able to test.
Yeah.
That will be both ways you'll have traffic.
I say this because a lot of drones are being made here in India now, in companies in Hyderabad, where they're able to test a particular kind of water, which is going to be suitable for agriculture. So the same methodology,
Yeah,
if it can
exactly.
be used in the medical
Absolutely, yeah.
field, would be very
And I
helpful.
suppose delivering medicines
Yeah.
and Well, Shaito, thanks very, very, very much for joining us. Congratulations on your work you're doing. From what I've been reading, there are 3 countries at the forefront of technology and medicine: Israel, America, mainly Silicon Valley, and India. In fact, I met some kids from Silicon Valley, and they worked on AI, which with a smartphone, they can detect 29 kinds of, they can diagnose 29 kinds of illnesses that a person can have remotely, just with a smartphone, 29, and they're going to get it up to 100 and God knows how much. Tell us what you're doing and how it's taking this huge gap between services and the patient forward.
So first, boss, nice to see you again. And this is a kid in a candy store moment for me to be on screen with you. So it's taken probably 30 years to get there, but really nice to be on screen with probably the best boss that I've ever had. So nice to see you.
It's an honor for me also. Proud of you.
Thank you. But I think to the point that you made, I think India today, I'll give you another example. We were in London about a few months ago, meeting with the NHS. We thought, we were going to study the NHS system because of we've heard so much about it. But the more we spoke to them, like you correctly said, we realized that India is actually 10 years ahead of the NHS system, be it in terms of technology, be in terms of the quality of care, be in terms of the way that we are able to wrap ourselves around the patient using technology and delivering healthcare. So I think that I have to commend both the healthcare providers plus the great Indian startup ecosystem, which has worked very hard towards this. Where we are focused on is two parts of it. One, I think like Neeraj was talking about, telehealth, etc., is one part of it. But ultimately, we have a huge shortage of doctors and nurses in this country. I mean, just broad numbers. Again, there's not accurate statistics, but we are short of about 1.5 million doctors and about 2 million nurses just to get to the WHO standards, right? So the only way you're going to be able to get better access for these doctors is to try and bring more efficiency into the system. So what we've done is we've actually used digital technology to try and bring all the patients' clinical information and present it to the doctor in a meaningful way so that he can take better decisions, more accurate decisions very quickly. Therefore, he's able to see more patients and give better access to healthcare to larger, we've actually been able to now give care to patients in Kanpur, in Lucknow, and well beyond that, sitting out of Delhi.
Fantastic.
Just one thing I want to add, Dr. Ed, to the point that Mr. Bachchan was making about the blood samples. I think another bit that the Indian startup ecosystem has been able to fulfill is that there are companies which have been able to bring out point-of-care devices. So where actually blood sample drawn, the results can actually get populated through a mobile platform at the location itself. So I think it's very early days, but they've done some real amazing breakthrough. And this is in states like Orissa and in states like Bihar, where they're piloting these programs.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah, really good.
Prashant, what we're talking about, the numbers less, right? Whether it's the doctors, whether it's the nurses, or just because of our population is so much, reaching out to all. Prashant, you've been working for 6 years. Tell us about the artificial intelligence and what Cure.ai does. Tell us your journey.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be in presence of this group. I mean, and Mr. Bachchan, happy 80th birthday in advance. I know it's coming up next week. I wanted to talk about what we do. In fact, I mean, we are addressing precisely the problem that you're talking about, Mr. Bachchan, that a lot of times you don't have access at the point of care. And what we do is build artificial intelligence algorithms which can automatically interpret radiology images. So X-rays, CT scans, ultrasounds, we can interpret that automatically within a minute at the point of care. So if you take an X-ray, the algorithm is interpreting that immediately and producing a result. And this is something that is now WHO endorsed, where WHO has, WHO has basically said that AI can be a replacement for a human reader. And you can basically read an X-ray, identify tuberculosis. In fact, one of the problems that we're addressing is tuberculosis. So we can interpret tuberculosis on an X-ray and immediately provide a result. And this is something where, I mean, I'll talk about one of the examples from across the world. I mean, one example specifically from Philippines that we have seen is that we are able to reduce the time that it takes to read an X-ray from 4 to 5 weeks to a single minute. So now what used to take about 4 or 5 weeks can be interpreted in a minute, and we are able to read that X-ray. And think about it, I mean, this is something which takes a human being 30 years of training to become a radiologist. And we are now building artificial intelligence which can interpret that X-ray and do that very accurately in a very short amount of time. And this is, as I mentioned, part of the WHO protocol. And this is one of the solutions. Again, there are solutions that we have which can detect lung cancer early. So on a chest X-ray, we can identify nodules, identify a lung cancer risk, and be able to diagnose those earlier. And that becomes, again, a massive opportunity because lung cancer is one of those conditions where by the time you get diagnosed, the mass is pretty big in the lung, and it's too late. It's too late to treat that patient. So if you're able to diagnose lung cancer early on a routine X-ray, so we all take X-rays for so many reasons. You can diagnose that lung cancer or at least identify lung cancer on that routine X-ray, and then get that patient to a CT scanner, get a CT, get a biopsy. You can radically change lung cancer diagnostics, and that is exactly what we're doing now in partnership with AstraZeneca across the world in about 21 countries. And then we also work on stroke, which is one of those conditions where you want to be able to treat that patient quickly because every minute that passes by, brain cells are dying. And what we do again is that the CT scan that is taken at the hospital, we deploy our algorithm on that, and within a minute we can alert the doctors that there is this patient who's got either a bleed or an infarct or all the different indications on that CT scan. So that is the technology that we have built out at Cure.ai. And today we are in about 62 countries at about 700 plus hospitals. And scaling this up, we are actually, till now we have reached more than about 1.2 crore patients. And this year alone, we are probably going to process about 60 lakh patients through our technology. So,
wow. How do we come up with this problem about hospital beds, not having enough of them? We have Sangeeta Reddy.
Yes, we do.
Should be able to give us some opinion on that?
Good idea.
So, good evening and namaste. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you, and I want to thank Amitabh Bachchan ji for just giving your support to this most important subject. Because every time you come up here and speak about healthcare, it enhances the visibility. So, Pranoy and Amitabh ji, thank you very much. Coming to the aspect of what we're looking at, what do we want? We want universal health access for people. And this is enabled through a combination of things. We need more beds. We need more healthcare workers, whether they're doctors. So we have to double our doctors, triple our nurses, and grow by 4 times our paramedics. So this is the infrastructure piece. Then we need to enhance our efficiency. So whether this is automation, we're working on artificial intelligence, we're working on rural enablement, new devices so that doctors can see things, sitting in a city, they can still diagnose and treat a rural patient. And we've been working across all these realms. So whether it's drones or 3D printing, all these will enhance efficiency and effectiveness. And the third very important pillar is really the focus on prevention. Because when we hear of a friend who's had a bypass surgery and they cleared 4 vessels, or they had an angioplasty and put 5 stents, the question we should be asking ourselves is, where was this individual when his first vessel got partially blocked? And why can't we find them then and treat them medically? When we find cancer, 63% of cancers in our country are detected in stage 3 and 4. If we find them at stage 1, we can treat it cost effectively, with less pain, and definitely with a lower mortality. So this is really the broad framework of looking at all 3, and many of the wonderful solutions we've been talking about come into that categorization. So while coming back to the question you directly asked me on number of beds, number 1, we have to create deeper incentives towards putting up hospital beds and healthcare. And some governments are doing that. There's an interesting plan which has come up called viability gap funding, because beds in rural areas are not attracting the investment. So how do you enable that to do that? At Apollo, we've created a model called REACH, which is the rural empowerment and access to quality healthcare. So rural models like these need adequate support, more funding, and then we have to find ways to encourage doctors and medical students to really be in those areas. On top of that, we put telemedicine layers, we put drones, we do local manufacturing, the whole Atmanirbhar, so that we can bring down the cost of treatment. And then finally, to push Ayushman Bharat so that the affordability comes in. So it's a combination of solutions. I think our country is moving. We have many things to be proud of, especially in terms of, high-end care. I want to end with just one very nice story of a young girl who spent 14 years of her life viewing the world upside down because her neck, her cervical spine was completely 190 degrees circulated. Our surgeon found a way to change the vertebral column and enable her to see life looking straight. And this young girl is from Pakistan and has gone back to tell this story. So there are fantastic things that Indian doctors can do. Let's all work together towards enabling this for our country and for the world.
It's wonderful news to hear. And the question of getting, sufficient beds in hospitals was a very pertinent point during this recent pandemic, where beds were the most important factor. And it was pathetic to see some of the patients, sitting in their cars and getting oxygen and so on and so forth. But
Even
I just
oxygen cylinders, actually.
Absolutely, yes. Just want to add a little more to the question about doctors and nurses, not enough of them. One, I mean, it goes back again to the pandemic. One of very good examples was conducted by the BMC here. Nursing staff, there was a huge shortage. What they did was they found that a lot of the students that were studying medical had to stop studies. They'd gone back to their homes. What they did was they contacted these students and asked them, are you ready to do basic hospital nursing work? And they got them out from there, put them up in hotels here, gave them twice the amount of salary, and got them to work in the hospitals, even to doing basic things. So, I mean, the need for nursing staff, for doctors is immense, really. The other thing that is happening, actually, and I don't know whether that is the right thing to say, a lot of the medical students, when they graduate, they want to work independently, want to set up their own clinics in urban areas because it's a better income for them. But what happens is that when they apply to the government services, the government sends them into the rural areas where they do not earn so much money, and so they're very reluctant to go there. This is a problem that we need to get over.
Exactly. Mohammad Asif is also with us, CEO of Plan India. And I wanted to ask you, Mohammad Asif ji, using health tech, because we are talking about use of technology, using health tech to help ASHA workers, because that has been our theme. हमने ASHA workers और उनको किस तरीके से मजबूती दी जाए, शक्ति प्रदान की जाए, because they are quite literally the backbone of the health infrastructure in this country. So how can technology be used to help what they are doing?
And just to add, Asifji, because we're talking about healthcare, because these are all the innovators here. You work on ground. Plan is working in the rural areas. So you can actually tell them what is scalable, what is doable, and what is not.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here on this panel. I think for the ASHA workers and technology definitely, as all of us have been talking about, has a huge accelerator potential, and it does have, while we were talking earlier about services, it also has the potential to help strengthen not just awareness at the community level, but also train frontline workers so that they are able to work with more contemporary, more recent understanding, knowledge in the health space. And at Plan India, what we are doing is to see how we can use technology to help ASHA workers become more aware of what is needed on the ground. And as earlier in the morning, we saw some ASHA workers using apps, tablets, and I think the government is also putting a lot of effort in that space. How ASHA workers can use apps to make local level decisions, be informed of data, and also understand the ecosystem in which they operate much better. One of the things which is very important, especially for health innovators and coming from a grassroots program experience, we feel that somewhere many of the apps, many of the services that we are developing, they are more attuned to a very urban, very there's not much of focus on what is it that is relevant for a person at the grassroots. So if we keep in frame issues of diversity, inclusion, keeping in frame that, okay, this app has to be used by a person who may have not so much of educational understanding, how to use more of infographics to communicate results, how to use more of pictorial ways of communicating rather than textual. I think these are things that will help improve awareness.
I think what you said about inclusion and diversion, so that everybody can use it. The technology can be used at not only just urban, in fact, rural as well. I would just like to go across to Nikhil Joshi. Nikhil, tell us, at Digital Jalebi, you all work with frontline workers where they're using experiential technology. So tell us, what are those digital tools which can help physicians, caregivers, as well as nurses?
Namaste to everyone on the panel. Really happy to be here. So, a very, very interesting thing is happening, not just in India, across the world. We are now realizing the true power of technology. We are actually not fancied by emerging technologies, immersive technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, but we are actually using it to tackle the base ground level problem. So when we talk about caregivers, one of the important problems is they are generally trained in groups, and they are trained on, say, they're generally given videos, two-dimensional content, pamphlets, and then they are asked to perform certain activities where they go through a procedural training, but they are never able to get into the scenario. They are never able to experience how a labor management room would look like. A very interesting example that I heard from one of the social sector organization is a lot of nurses, these ASHA workers, when they actually do labor management for the first time, and when they see a lot of blood in the pregnancy, they faint. And a lot of them have hemophobia at some level, and none type of training is actually able to make them or prepare them for any kind of such scenarios. So we are increasingly using virtual reality, augmented reality to be able to give them the closest experience to how these situations would be. Coming to, say, like a physician or a surgeon, they're increasingly using virtual technologies to help their imagination. I heard one of the AIMS doctors telling me that whenever we do any kind of heart surgery and we have to clear the valves for blockage and all, we look at these scans and then imagine where the valve blockage would be and actually enter the surgical room with that imagination. But with virtual reality, we are literally able to get inside the heart. We're able to understand where exact blockage is, rather than, because a lot of layers of hertz while the scan is there are not visible in the two-dimensional scan. When it comes to patients today are using technologies like glucometer patches, which are just there around their arm, which are tethering data to their phones, and now they are able to quickly analyze their data. They are the ones who understand what they eat and how that particular food product or a particular food type is affecting their glucose levels. So I think the trend shift is using the right kind of technology for the right place, and this has happened across the world.
Actually, on that note, Nikhil, I'm just going to cut you there. Sorry, but yeah, I mean, using the right technology is key. Dr. Reddy, if I can just ask you here, tell us, we're talking about technology and innovation. What is, I mean, Apollo Hospitals, when we talk about in the tertiary care sector, what has Apollo done? What are the new innovations? Can you share that with us, please?
So there are multiple things, but thank you for this question. So again, you look at innovation or new technology, number one, on where you can do further diagnosis. So the latest CTs, the latest MRIs. One of the things we've done now is moving to software as a diagnostic tool. So our artificial intelligence tool enables us to look at the risk scores and therefore predict who is going to get sick. And if you look at this in the context of an Indian population of 1.3 billion people, if we're able to stratify those who are at higher risk, we can focus more on them. So that is one thing. The other is in terms of treatment. So our Proton is one of the latest technologies in the country, actually the first one in Asia, which is enabling us to treat cancer patients and get better outcomes. So there's a range, whether it is the robotic surgery. So we have a large number of robots which are enabling our doctors to do better surgery. So technology is getting combined and infused into every aspect of care. And then we do things like technology in the room. So to really optimize a nurse's time, you know how many times a nurse gets called into a room to say, I want water, or when is the doctor coming? So we have an equivalent of an Alexa type system and a protocol so that a nurse is called only for medical things and non-medical questions. So this is a method of automation and enhancement of a nurse's workflow. So we're using technology across the board, but ultimately I always say that, you know, while we do high tech with AI and ML and all the amazing things, and use technology, whether it's the bytes or the bandwidth, or even to decipher the genome. These three Bs of biology, bytes, and bandwidth are changing the way we look at healthcare. But high tech must always be combined with high touch. So that human touch, that ability to stay close to the patient, to reassure the patient, I think is a fine art and a talent that Indian doctors must continue to hold close.
Yeah, I think the connection. In fact, Mr. Bachchan, what you were saying about the shortage of beds. So telemedicine earlier was just, I think, a video call or just a phone call. But COVID has really changed it, right? I mean, reaching out to so many people. Neeraj or Prashant, can you tell us about this? Has it been the game changer, telemedicine?
Telemedicine has absolutely been a game changer. I think we saw telemedicine, and you know, I'm sorry, but I always come from the health equity perspective, because a lot of the tools that we talk about are more for the urban people who can afford it. But from an equity perspective, we saw in rural areas telemedicine go up by 300-400% in the COVID era. And that's continued. People are still using telemedicine to be able to reach out to doctors, to reach out to specialists. Of course, it needs to get better, it needs to get sharper, but it is happening. And that's probably one way to really start looking at reaching out much more. Also diagnostic, you know, it's a big challenge because most people are not, as Mr. Bachchan was talking about, are not able to get diagnostic. I mean, hemoglobin anemia is a huge issue in India. We've got to do population level screening to really try and attack or try and sort of respond to that. So lots of stuff happening. I'm going to constantly say health equity, we need to think about the bottom population and how we're going to take them along. And thanks to COVID, I think that's also happened. We have realized that health is an issue of equity, and we need to take everybody along.
I wanted to add one more thing. I mean, telemedicine, of course, grew substantially during COVID, right? But also the fact that you don't have enough beds, and a lot of people actually set up ICUs at home during COVID.
Yes.
And that system across India has now been set up where you can actually have people set up a whole ICU, a whole bed at home, provide care at home, and again, that can scale up. That can also be a significant opportunity.
A lot of private people did a lot of voluntary work in providing beds. And I would really wonder whether after the COVID epidemic or whatever it is has now eased off, what has happened to those private places where these beds were made? And can they still be revived and made operational?
Interesting.
They can, sir, but currently there is no demand. So, you know, we are also struggling with that. I mean, we created last year, Path alone, we created so much access to oxygen. But most of those plants currently are not being used because there is no demand. So it's a question of how we balance that and how we take it to...
हाँ, इस पर और विस्तार से चर्चा आगे कर लेंगे. अभी हमारे साथ बिहार के उप मुख्यमंत्री तेजस्वी यादव जुड़ चुके हैं. तेजस्वी जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद इस मुहिम में भाग लेने का. मेरा सबसे पहला सवाल आपसे ये है कि हमने कई बार कुछ तस्वीरें देखी जब आप डिप्टी सीएम बने, उसके बाद आपने औचक निरीक्षण किया, लेकिन मूलभूत रूप से तकनीक का इस्तेमाल करके स्वास्थ्य में परिवर्तन ये कैसे होगा, और ख़ास तौर से बिहार जैसे राज्य में?
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया साकिब जी, आपने अपने कार्यक्रम में मुझे बुलाया और इस मुहिम का पार्ट बनाया. इसके लिए आपको और एनडीटीवी के सभी लोगों को धन्यवाद देते हैं. और औचक निरीक्षण के बारे में आपने जिक्र किया. जो अभी नई सरकार बनी है महागठबंधन की, नीतीश कुमार जी के नेतृत्व में, हम लोगों की लड़ाई पहले से थी कि पढ़ाई, दवाई, कमाई, सिंचाई, सुनवाई और कार्रवाई वाली सरकार होनी चाहिए. और अस्पताल जो है, वहाँ लोग जब जाते हैं तो स्वस्थ होने के लिए जाते हैं, अपने डिजीज़ को दूर करने के लिए जाते हैं. तो बेसिकली जब भी कोई अस्पताल जाए तो साफ़ सफाई जो है, हाइजीन की व्यवस्था हाइजीनिक होनी चाहिए. पहली बात, दवा उपलब्ध होने चाहिए जो सरकार मुफ्त में हमारी सरकार देती है. साथ ही साथ इलाज होना चाहिए. डॉक्टर जो हैं वो वहाँ मौजूद होने चाहिए. तो ये बेसिक चीज़ें हैं. एम्बुलेंस हो या और भी जो आजकल टेक्नोलॉजी का ज़माना है, चाहे जो भी हेल्थ से रिलेटेड जितने इक्विपमेंट हैं वो उपलब्ध होने चाहिए, ताकि जो बेसिक चीज़ें हैं हेल्थ को लेकर के ये लोगों को पहुँचे, लोगों को मिले. और आप जानते हैं कि बिहार जो पिछड़ा राज्य है, गरीब राज्य है, हम लोगों के कम रिसोर्स होते हुए भी आप लोगों को हम इतना बताना चाहते हैं. अभी हम 2 महीने भी नहीं हुए हैं उप मुख्यमंत्री बने हुए, लेकिन हमने सभी अधिकारियों को हमने बुलाया था, जितने भी मेडिकल सुपरिटेंडेंट हैं या जितने भी आपके जो सिविल सर्जन हैं पूरे स्टेट से लेकर के हेल्थ सोसाइटी के लोगों को बुलाया, उनको एक टारगेट दिया गया है कि लोगों को बेसिक जो नीड है वो कम से कम उपलब्ध होनी चाहिए। तो 60 डेज़ का हमने जो है टारगेट दिया है, जिसमें कि सबसे पहले इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर होना चाहिए। गांव देहात में, रूरल एरियाज़ में, ग्रामीण इलाके में अगर आप जाते हैं तो वो व्यवस्था नहीं मिल पाती है। आप ज़िले से जो है कैपिटल भेज दिया जाता है, पटना रेफ़र कर दिया जाता है। तो एक रेफ़र पॉलिसी के साथ हम लोग जो है आ रहे हैं, ताकि जो पटना में जो लोड है वो कम हो जाए, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हो जाए, मतलब डिस्ट्रिक्ट का जितने भी लोग हैं वो डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ही रुक जाए। और एम्बुलेंस की व्यवस्था होनी चाहिए, आपका सफाई की व्यवस्था होनी चाहिए। हमने दवा जो है लगभग 200 कुछ दवाइयों की लिस्ट है जो लोगों को राज्य सरकार उपलब्ध कराती है मुफ्त में, उसमें जो है बढ़ोतरी हम चाहते हैं कि करें, नेशनल एवरेज के बराबर हम लोग आएँ। इस काम में हम लोग जो है लगे हुए हैं। और जितने भी डॉक्टर्स वगैरह हैं गांव के इलाके में मौजूद नहीं होते हैं। अब हम आपको बता दें एकदम भाई, डॉक्टर को हम लोग जो है भगवान का रूप देते हैं। अगर ग्रामीण इलाके से लोग नहीं जाना चाहते हैं वहाँ और प्राइवेट प्रैक्टिसेस करते हैं, अभी हमारी सरकार ने, हम आपको बता देना चाहते हैं कि हमारे पास फाइल आते हैं, एक डॉक्टर जो है 12 साल से एब्सेंट है, पैसे उठा रहा है, फाइल अभी आता है। 5 साल से कोई एब्सेंट है, कोई 2 साल से एब्सेंट है। तो एक बड़ी कार्रवाई हमारी सरकार ने करने का काम किया है कि डॉक्टर्स जो हैं जो 6 महीने से एब्सेंट हैं उन सब पर जो है हम लोग कार्रवाई करने जा रहे हैं। जब पता चला कि जो 6 महीने से अनुपस्थित है, लगभग आप सुनकर के आंकड़ा आप घबरा जाइएगा, लगभग 705 ऐसे जो डॉक्टर हैं जो 6 महीने से ऊपर से अनुपस्थित हैं और सरकार का पैसा वो उठाते जा रहे हैं हर महीने। तो इस पे हम लोगों ने एक बड़ी कार्रवाई की है और इस मामले को हम लोग गंभीरता से ले रहे हैं, क्योंकि हमारा मानना है कि अगर डॉक्टर ही नहीं रहेगा तो इलाज कैसे होगा। जब हम पीएमसीएच पहुँचे थे, आपको पता है वहाँ एक टाटा वार्ड है, जब रात में अचानक से कैजुअली हम जब गए वहाँ तो वहाँ डॉक्टर भी अनुपस्थित पाए गए। तो उन सब लोगों पे जो है कार्रवाई की गई है। हमारी कोशिश है कि जो दवाइयाँ जो हैं वो लोगों को उपलब्ध हो, लेकिन ओरिजिनल दवाइयाँ उपलब्ध हो। मार्केट में नकली दवाइयाँ, एक्सपायरी दवाइयाँ वो घुमा करके ला दिया जाता है। तो अभी हमारी सरकार ने ये भी निर्णय लिया है कि भाई दवाई जितनी होंगी उसको कम से कम, मान लो एक्सपायर अगर हो जाता है तो उसको हम नष्ट कर दें ताकि वो दोबारा मार्केट में ना जाए। अभी जो है किसी को दे दिया जाता है, वो ले जाता है या दोबारा मार्केट में लाता है, एक बड़ा प्रश्न चिन्ह था। तो दवाइयाँ लोगों को जो है ओरिजिनल मिले, एक्सपायरी दवा ना मिले, नकली दवा ना मिले, इस पे भी जितने भी हमारी जो कार्रवाई है वो चल रही है। और हमको लगता है कि कुछ दिन 60 दिन का टारगेट दिया गया है और हमारी सरकार बाकायदा परफॉर्मेंस बेस्ड पे सारी कार्रवाई करेगी। जो परफॉर्मेंस करेगा उसको जो है नवाजा जाएगा, जो परफॉर्म नहीं करेगा उस पे जो है कार्रवाई की जाएगी। और 60 दिन का ये ड्यूटी जो है एक हम लोगों ने रोड मैप जो है वो तैयार हम लोगों ने किया है। तो आपको हम बता देना चाहते हैं,
बच्चन साहब आपसे पूछना चाहते हैं।
तेजस्वी यादव जी प्रणाम करता हूँ, अमिताभ बच्चन बोल रहा हूँ मैं। मान्यवर, ऐसा है कि अभी आपने बताया कि कई जो प्रणाम मान्यवर, अभी आपने बताया कि कई डॉक्टर जिनको ग्रामीण स्थानों पे लगा दिया जाता है वो अनुपस्थिति के बाद अपना घर पे बैठ जाते हैं और पहुंचते नहीं हैं। एक तो ये विषय है। दूसरा विषय ये है कि ग्रामीण के जो लोग होते हैं वो आम तौर पर जो बड़े डॉक्टर्स होते हैं या मेडिकल फ्रेटर्निटी से जो आते हैं उन पे उनका विश्वास हटता चला जा रहा है। वो कहते हैं हम लोग अपना खुद ही इलाज कर लेंगे। कई बार वो डर जाते हैं कि जो शहर से आया है न जाने कौन सी दवाई देगा और हम और भी बीमार हो जाएंगे। अब आपने अभी बताया कि कुछ डॉक्टर्स जो हैं उनकी वहाँ पोस्टिंग होती है, वो गायब हो जाते हैं। तो ये विश्वास उन ग्रामीण लोगों में और भी बढ़ेगा कि लोग आते तो हैं लेकिन इलाज तो करते नहीं हैं।
मैं आपको बता देना चाहता हूँ मैं थोड़ा सा डिफ़र करूँगा आपसे कि ग्रामीण जो लोग हैं, आपको पता है जब ज़िले में इलाज नहीं होता है, ब्लॉक में इलाज नहीं होता है, तो वो पटना आते हैं। आप समझिए कि जो कटिहार जैसे डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जो लगभग बंगाल बॉर्डर है, अगर इलाज नहीं होता वो रात में चल कर के एम्बुलेंस करके जो है वो पटना आता है। यानी वो इच्छुक है इलाज कराने को। उनके बिहार के लोग बड़े जागरूक हैं, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है, उनको कोई घबराहट नहीं है। लेकिन डॉक्टरों की उपस्थिति जो है वो होनी चाहिए, और हमको लगता है कि इस दिशा में हम लोग जो है कार्रवाई कर रहे हैं। कई बार अमिताभ जी होता ये है कि हमारे विभाग में इतने डॉक्टर नहीं होते हैं, नर्सेज नहीं होते, एएनएम नहीं होते हैं, जेएनएम नहीं होता, टेक्नीशियंस नहीं होते, वेंटिलेशन मशीन है लेकिन चलाने वाला कोई नहीं है। तो हमारी ये चुनाव में भी जब 2020 में जब चुनाव हम लड़ रहे थे तो इस बात को हम लोगों ने लेकर के चला था कि भाई बेरोज़गारी जो है हम लोग जो है हटाने का काम करेंगे। अगर स्वास्थ्य विभाग में नर्सेस की बहाली अगर हम करेंगे, एएनएम जेएनएम की बहाली करेंगे, लैब टेक्नीशियंस की बहाली करेंगे, डॉक्टरों की बहाली करेंगे, तो बाकायदा जो डिपार्टमेंट पे जो लोड है वो कम हो जाएगा। तो हम आपको इस प्लेटफॉर्म के माध्यम से आश्वस्त करना चाहते हैं कि हमारी सरकार जो है 1,60,000 नौकरियां जो हैं हम लोग है, सिर्फ हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं, हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट से हम लोग जो है देने का फैसला हम लोगों ने किया है। यानी जो रिक्त पदे हैं उसको हम जो है बढ़ाने का काम कर रहे हैं। और आपने जैसा बताया कि गांव में कोई इलाज थोड़ा आशंका रहती है, इलाज लोगों में अभाव है जागरूकता की, तो इसको भी रोकने के लिए हम लोग जो है रेफरल एसओपी जो है वो ला रहे हैं। अब होता क्या, जो डॉक्टर जो होता है जिला में बैठा हुआ या ब्लॉक लेवल पे बैठा हुआ, वो इलाज नहीं करता, सीधे रेफर लिख देता है, रेफर टू पटना। और बेचारे गरीब जो हैं उनको पटना आना पड़ता है क्योंकि वहाँ उस हिसाब की व्यवस्था नहीं हो पाती, उस हिसाब का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं है, उस हिसाब का केयर नहीं है। तो सारी चीज़ें जो बेसिक उपलब्धता की जो मैंने बात की पहले कि दवाई, सफाई, एम्बुलेंस की व्यवस्था और ये डॉक्टर जो हैं वो उपलब्ध रहें, इसलिए हम लोग एक रेफरल एसओपी लेकर के आ रहे हैं ताकि जो पटना पे भी लोड है, मान लीजिए पटना में भी पूरे जिला के लोग आ जाएंगे तो पटना में भी ऐसा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं है कि हम जो सब लोगों की इलाज कर पाए। लेकिन इसीलिए हम लोग हर दिशा में, और माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी ने हम आपको बता देना चाहते हैं, हर जिलेवार उन्होंने हम सब लोगों ने बैठ के निर्णय लिया कि हर एक जिला में मेडिकल कॉलेज हम लोग खोलने जा रहे हैं। तो आप समझिए कि अगर मेडिकल कॉलेज और अस्पताल साथ में खुलेगा।
Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted some clarification on something Amitabh Bachchan has been talking about, and you also just mentioned. As you know, we travel deep into villages for the last 25, 30 years regularly. And we've seen you there in the middle of campaigning, etc. But what we also check out the health facilities. And many villages have beautiful little buildings which are clinics or small hospitals. And we say, wow, that's fantastic. And we tell the villagers and they laugh at us. They say, we never go there, there's nobody there. And we say, show us. They take us into these nice little buildings. It is dilapidated inside, no doctors, no functioning. And this has been going on for 20 years. It's a crucial problem. I think Amitabh Bachchan mentioned it. How do you get doctors to stay in villages? I mean, you do have to compensate them much higher than staying in Patna. How will you solve this problem? All these clinics are underutilized.
Pranodji, whatever you had mentioned about, that's a worrying part. And that's why our government has been working on that field. And we're going to ensure every doctor, like you can say that what action we have taken, like 705 doctors were absent since 10 years, 12 years, 5 years, 4 years, and they have been taking money from the government.
Right.
That's what, when I used to get a file, I was like, he's absent since 12 years. And now the file is coming to me. Why not immediately?
Right.
That's why I took this decision that why not, whoever is absent more than 6 months, we will take strict action. We will not compromise on it. But there is many more things also. That workload is too much, because Bihar population density of population is too high. So we have to distribute their duties also, work also. That's why I've talked about the vacancies. That's what we are going to do. We are going to fulfill the vacancies. And 1,60,000, you can imagine it's a huge number if these people are going to come into it, into the field. So there will be a drastic change. At least villagers should get the treatment within their block level. That's why we are coming with the referral SOP. And that's what I have given target for like 60 days. Whoever is going to work, they're going to get appreciation. If not, they're going to get पूरी तरीके से कार्रवाई की जाएगी. We're going to take a strict action. We will not compromise on this issue. And this was my fight in 2020 also in the election. अब बताइए, अब शिक्षा विभाग में शिक्षक नहीं होंगे, यूनिवर्सिटी में प्रोफेसर नहीं होगा, तो क्या मतलब है उस बिल्डिंग का? और हम लोग जो अभी जो whatever, Pranav ji, I need to add one more thing. Whatever medical college we are talking about that we're going to open in every district, उससे पहले ही हम पद क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, पोस्ट क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, ताकि बिल्डिंग ना रह जाए, बिल्डिंग में लोग रहें. और यही आपने देखा होगा, you must have seen in few cabinet meetings, in past few cabinet meetings, we are fulfilling it. We are creating the post. Recently we created almost around 8,000 posts.
ये देखिए, ये सारे वादे पहले भी हुए थे, लेकिन उनमें से कितने पूरे होंगे? मेरे ख्याल से अगले कार्यक्रम में जब हम आपको आमंत्रित करेंगे, तो एक रिपोर्ट कार्ड आप प्रस्तुत करने की स्थिति में रहेंगे. और बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए.
थैंक यू वेरी मच.
बहुत धन्यवाद इस कार्यक्रम में भाग लेने के लिए. एक छोटे से ब्रेक के लिए रुक रहे हैं, अभी हाजिर होते हैं.
नहीं रुकेंगे, सबको स्वस्थ करेंगे, पूरा स्वस्थ करेंगे, नहीं थमेंगे, अब ठान लिया है, मंजिल पाके रहेंगे.